Hi, welcome to Persona Non Errata, my account for Paraphilia stuff. Today we'll be answering this question.
Are you part of the big three? If so, which one?
I am a map. My age of attraction starts at around 6 to 7. I'm also a Zerfel and attracted mostly to dogs and wolves, although a lot of types of cat are at least partially interesting to me too. I'm not a necrophile especially, but the idea of doing things to someone who had died very recently or been well preserved since their death doesn't turn me off either.
Do you have an obscure or less known power? If so, which one?
None of mine are really that obscure. I guess the weirdest one for me, outside the big three, is probably Somnophilia, particularly in cases where I'm the one who's asleep. And the most obscure one by name is probably Ortagonistophilia, which is a word that I have never had to say before, and which means an arousal at the concept of being filmed or on stage, or sex as a performance.
When did you join the pro-power community?
January the 27th, 2023.
Have any of your power accounts ever been suspended? How many?
None, but then I haven't been on Paratwitter that long, so it's not surprising.
Have you ever felt like leaving the community? Why or why not?
I've only just got here, but it's one of the greatest places I've ever been, and being able to express myself is so freeing. I don't think I'm going to leave anytime soon.
What's your contact stance?
For anything that involves a non-consenting living creature, I am anti-contact. This includes zoophilia, and also basically includes all of the map ones. And although I don't have strong opinions on the specifics of what the age of consent should be within reason, and I'm not going to leap down someone's throat for being in a 1917 age gap or something, it should be trivial that 13-year-olds aren't able to consent, even if 17-year-olds might be able to. For necrophilia, I guess I technically believe in posthumous consent, the same way we can get people's consent to give their organs to someone else, bury them in a certain way, give their stuff to specific people, or what have you. In practical terms, though, I'm generally anti-contact here as well, at least until we have some kind of system that could facilitate this kind of stuff without problems. For somnophilia, I think you need to get your partner's consent before you do anything, because, they're obviously not going to start consenting while they sleep. But I guess I'm pro-contact in the sense that people can consent before they go to sleep with a full understanding of what they're getting into. As for all the ones that don't involve harm to a real living creature, go for it.
Are you friendly with people with contact stances you don't agree with? Why or why not?
If it's someone who has minor disagreements with what I just said about necrophilia, and thinks that there isn't actually a system that could ever facilitate the type of consent that would be required to make that ethical, then I don't feel that strongly about that, and would be happy to be friendly with them. If it's someone pro-contact who believes that raping children or animals is very based, or that they're capable of consent, then they can politely go very far away from me. Fundamentally, if someone doesn't actually care that what they're doing or advocating for is harming others, and aren't willing to admit that it's harming others, where do we go from there? I don't wish harm for harm's sake on anyone, so I'm definitely not going to advocate for anything bad to be done to pro-contact people, but fundamentally these are rapists or rape apologists with a PR team and deserve to be treated as such.
Are you friendly with antis? Why or why not?
Outside of Paratwitter, I'm friendly with antis just out of necessity, because it turns out that it's not trivial to tell who's got what opinion about para stuff in a community where the belief that there's a difference between attraction and abuse can get you kicked out of that community. On Paratwitter, I mostly just block and move on. There's fundamentally no way of convincing someone who pretends to believe that being attracted to someone and raping them are the same thing.
Were you ever an anti? If so, what changed?
No. Fundamentally, I've never believed that simply being attracted to someone was anything like as bad as abusing them, and I've always understood the difference, even when I was very young.
Have you come out to friends? What were their reactions? Were they online or IRL?
I have. Being even semi-openly a map has lost me friends, lost me a job, got me kicked out of places, the works. But there are some people who have accepted me for who I am. It's a bit sad that I have to hide for the most part, but at least some people get it. Oh, and at least a few people have responded by coming out right back, which was always fun.
Do you think that therapy should be mandatory for paraphiles? Why or why not?
No, because mandatory therapy is never justifiable nor effective. However, I do want it to be a lot easier for paraphiles to get therapy if that's what they need. Part of the way that I think this needs to be done is by reducing the stigma around anti-contact paraphilia so that people can actually talk to someone and get help if they need it, as well as removing any kind of mandatory reporting for paraphilias.
Do you think paraphilia can be cured?
No. Just to provide a single example, I cite here from Cantor 2018, Can Paedophiles Change? Current Sexual Health Reports. A single recent study has been published in which authors claimed to find evidence that half of paedophiles cease to be paedophiles. When analysed correctly, the data were indistinguishable from random. Despite that the study was not a treatment study, claims continue to appear that paedophiles can become non-paedophiles. To tell paedophiles that they cease to be paedophiles relieves them from any need to develop skills for managing that paedophilia, the current clinical consensus of the field. Although it is hoped that there may one day be methods to convert paedophiles into non-paedophiles, there is no evidence that we are there yet. The data demonstrate an association between paedophilia and brain structure. The association indicates the neurological difference was present before birth. And so forth. You can find some more interesting evidence in the footnotes of the same study, though you'll need to use the Wayback Machine for a few. The TLDR, though, is all no.
Do you want your paraphilia to be cured?
Ignoring the fact that it's completely impossible, yes. If I could stop having these unrequitable desires, why wouldn't I? They're not exactly doing anything good for me after all.
Do you think paraphilia should be part of LGBTQ+?
No. Fundamentally, the end goal of queer liberation is that people should not only be able to have, but act on their preferences. The concept of love the sinner, hate the sin is considered to be a failure state in queer liberation, and for good reason. But the end goal of paraphile liberation is that we should be able to have our attractions, but on the condition of not acting on them. A gay man usually wants to be able to have sex with other men. A trans woman wants to live as a woman. An ace person wants to be able to live their life without being expected to be in a sexual relationship. But if paraphiles are going to have true liberation, it's going to be anti-contact, because liberation that is contingent on being able to victimize other people is not and never will be valid. I don't, however, think that being a paraphile somehow stops you being queer. Although if your queer nature is fully contained within your paraphile nature, like a man who is attracted to adult women and young boys only, then there's definitely an argument that you don't really have much of a queer nature. On the other hand, a man who is attracted to young girls and no one else and is anti-contact might conceivably claim to be functionally ace on the same basis, by the assumption that any paraphilic attraction doesn't contribute either way to whether or not you're queer. In general, though, no, paraphilia doesn't make you queer. It doesn't make you not queer either.
Are you pro-ship or pro-fiction?
Yes, because I can tell the difference between fantasy and reality.
What's your opinion on pro-recovery and why? Are you pro-recovery yourself?
Since it's impossible to recover from paraphilia, I'm not quite sure what this means. If it's like rehabilitation of offenders, then yes, that's good if it can prevent them from reoffending. But if this question means trying to recover from paraphilias themselves, no, because as discussed above, that's impossible.
What's your opinion on trans age?
I can't, for all the sense of me, understand what it's even supposed to mean to say that someone is, say, 14 when they're chronologically 24. Gender roles are arbitrary, and it makes sense to say that you were assigned into one and choose to live as another. But age is just an expression of how much time you've existed for, which is non-constructed, non-arbitrary, and objective, rather than a matter of personal preference. Additionally, trans-age people don't habitually live in the social role of someone of the age they claim, so I can't really say that they're living in a different social role from the one that they're assigned to. On the other hand, I really don't care. Like, sure, it's not as though you're hurting someone, and as long as you understand that the chronological age is the important one as far as relationships are concerned, I struggle to give a damn about the fact that people have an identity that I don't think is literally true.
Do you like the flag of your paraphilias?
I don't love them. I don't hate them. Most pride flags are vexillological nightmares, but the map and Zofar flags are at least colours that don't clash in an order that makes sense, so it's chill, it's fine.
Tag your favourite pro-para member.
I don't have a favourite, but thank you to Drop for making this questionnaire. Also, if you want to be one of my favourites, you could always like and subscribe and stuff, because that way I know that you enjoy my stuff and I should make more of it.